So you wanna be a picture book writer, then you gotta write picture books. And you're gonna need a bucket load of bright ideas for titles, plots, and hooks. If you're partial to prose or you're raring to rhyme, then repeat after me. It's a challenge, but I'm gonna tackle each story 1 month at a time with 12 by 12.
Likewise, what about in queries, submissions? Like, what are the more common, I guess, maybe mistakes might not be the right word, but just things that sort of make you go, eh?
So what I discover a lot in queries, not just with picture books, but I think especially picture books, is there will be a description of the book, but there's no hook, or it'll just be like, Sarah's in her playroom having a bad day and she needs to figure out how to have fun. Well, where's the conflict? Where's the tension? Is she stuck in there because there's a snowstorm? Is a monster on the other side of the door like threatening to eat her if she opens the door? So I'm all about horror picture books right now. So that all my examples are scary. So like they lack the tension, and I need to know what are the absolute highest stakes. And I know sometimes people struggle with that. Like, we need to know what is life or death. I need to read this manuscript. And life or death could literally be if she doesn't deliver her invitation to her best friend is going to think she's not invited. That's life or death for a 5-year-old, right? So when I say life or death, I don't literally mean like there's a knife in the picture book. So that's what I think is missing the most. Another thing, this isn't a turnoff, but one thing I also notice is people that may not have writing credits will say, mentioning I'm a part of 12 by 12 is great because it's a professional organization, but saying like I'm in all of these critique groups and I've been practicing my craft, and we don't care if you have, this is the first story you've ever written in your life or your 100th, if you have a degree or not, just the writing, it speaks for itself. So you don't have to try to compensate or prove yourself.
Bio, right.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that, because one of my other roles is I'm the co-founder with Emma Walton Hamilton of the Complete Picture Book Submission System. And we always tell people, don't pad your bio. Don't make it so that your bio is like 5 times longer than what, your pitch and your hook. Like, and people don't care that you're spend time with your grandkids on the weekend or whatever, or, you name it, right? So I love that you say that. I think a lot of people are worried that, oh no, this is my first book and I don't have any writing credits. Everybody who is here has a writing credit because you're a member of 12 by 12. And if that's the only thing that you put in your bio and the agent loves your manuscript, you're set,
Yeah. I mean, the first client I signed, I plucked her right out of the slush pile. It was the first story she ever wrote. She's a writer, like a technical writer, which is nothing like picture books. Picture books are so hard. But she, wrote this story because it was the pandemic and she was feeling burnt out. And so she wrote this story for her kids, and it sold to HarperCollins. It just came out in July, The Big Squeeze. Right. So it was the very first thing she ever wrote, and I've sold 2 other books to big fives for her since. Right. So yeah, it doesn't matter.
Also, just fun fact, I happen to have these sitting right here because I used them, I took pictures of them and used them in a presentation that I'm working on. These were 2 of my earliest published works. Speaking of technical writing, this one especially, Understanding Internet-Initiated ACH Debits. So when I first started querying, I had a lot of writing experience. However, I did not mention those publications in the bio of my query letters because they have absolutely nothing to do with writing for children. All right, so since it's come up already a couple times, we have to talk about horror in picture books. I'm so intrigued by this. And one of our 12 by 12 members, I think it was Jenna Lastly, attended a webinar, she said, that or some session where you talked about horror picture books, and she was like, it was so fascinating, and she was actually recommending you for a webinar, a 12 by 12 webinar on horror. I was like, well, I already have Sera coming, so we'll just give her a spot to talk about this. So tell us what that
Yeah,
means and
sure.
examples and what you're looking for.
So I'm going to start with a shameless plug because I'm actually teaching that horror picture book webinar tonight. So if anybody is interested, I will still share here, but if anyone is interested in going into deeper depth, go to my website, sararivers.com, and you can sign up. It's $49, but it includes a Q&A at the end.
Is there a replay? Because unfortunately I have
Yes.
stuff going on. Oh my God.
The recording is available for all registrants afterwards. Just don't, I always ask, please don't share with people who haven't paid to get in. But
Oh,
yeah.
right. Yeah. So you just go to your website and the link is there.
Yep.
What?
And on my social medias, I've been advertising it, but I'm glad somebody saw it and liked it because that was the first time I presented it. So
Well,
yeah.
I'm so glad I brought it up then, because now you probably, I'm guessing, get a few more people signed up. But anyway, we can't have you go into as much detail here as you're going to there, but can you give us like just the Cliff Notes version of what that means? Yeah.
Yeah. So when I speak about horror picture books, which actually are, I always say don't follow market trends, honestly, because they change just as quickly as they come. But editors are jumping on the horror bandwagon and they're looking for spooky books now. So I like to think of like Creepy Carrots, you know, that series. I Want My Hat Back, and This Is Not My Hat by John Klassen. The Skull by John Klassen, Benita and the Night Creatures, which is by my client Mariana Llanos. She that won the Pura Bel Prey. So anything that is super spooky, you know, scare the heck out of kids, or you know, still has like that humorous spin to it. Like in Creepy Carrots, you know, teaches a lesson of, you know, it like don't murder carrots, like they'll come back and get you, right? So yeah, so I just love, when I was a little girl, I was so macabre. I loved Edgar Allan Poe, I loved cemeteries, I loved all the dark things. I'm still like that. So I just think we should scare kids as they love it, I say that with love.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, my daughter was the same way, and she would write stuff and I'd be like, oh my goodness, you know. So we don't want to get too much into craft here, but what is the balance between like scaring versus, you know, I mean, I'm assuming like a jump scare versus like existential terror, you know, like that's gonna stay with them forever. As a Gen Xer who saw Jaws, for example, way too young and was afraid of the bathtub for a while, like we don't want that level, right?
Yeah.
So what's the balance?
Wow. I think it really depends on the child's threshold. So, for example, Poultrygeist, it literally shows a chicken getting, you see the chicken getting hit by this truck. There's blood and feathers and everything on the road. And the ghost of the chicken is like, wait, I'm dead? Like, so that is pretty, you know, and there are some really scary moments in that book, I think. So I think it's, someone said to me once, children are going to read until they don't want to read, and like they're not ready for something, right? So either they will read to a point and say, no, this is not for me, or other topics they might just gloss over those sections, or it may go over their heads sometimes. So I can't really say what the threshold is, because I mean that is like blatant like gore on the page, and then you know, and I Want My Hat Back, that bear like like revenge murders that rabbit. So.
Which is so funny because I love that book so much, and I also love the other one, which is This Is Not My Hat, you know. But Poultrygeist, when I read it and I thought this would have really bothered me as a child. Like as an adult, I can see the humor and everything, but I can also, I think, like you said, some kids, maybe it would be great. There are other books that aren't horror that would have really bothered me as a kid too. So you just need that are beautiful books. You just need, like you said, you have to trust kids to be able to process it for themselves. But they do love to be scared. Yeah, we're getting a lot of that.
Do it together so never you fear. It's a handy little way to help you kick into gear. You're amazing, exciting. Look out, 'cause you're writing 12 by 12.
12 manuscripts.
12 by 12.
12 picture books.
12 by 12 this year.